So I'm going to sentence to life with parole, or life with the possibility of parole. I don't have any control over parole. That's up to the parole board. Under the current guidelines and sentencing structure with them, a life sentence is a minimum 30 years before you would be considered for parole at this point. I recognize that that is likely a life sentence for you, but you'll have the hope and possibility of parole.
That was the sentence, and arguably not the biggest moment in that Georgia courtroom today. I'm Julia Janae. Thanks so much for being with us here on Court TV Live. We're going to get you back inside of that Mississippi courtroom for the Harrington trial in just a moment, but we are turning our attention to Georgia, where earlier today, Melody Farris, the defendant in the Burn Powell murder trial that you watched play out here on Court TV, she was sentenced today to life in prison with the possibility of parole. And last month, the jury found Melody guilty of shooting her husband, killing him, and then putting his body on a fire pit on their property back in 2018. We have someone who was inside of the courtroom today and all of those days during the trial. Court TV crime and justice correspondent MattJohnson is joining us live from outside of the courthouse. And Matt, you were there sitting in the gallery when that sentence came down. But tell us about the mood in the courtroom before the sentence was read.
Julia, nice to see you. A very dramatic day, a sentencing with a shocking twist here in Georgia as Melody Farris, now convicted killer, spoke out for the very first time. Remember, she didn't testify during her trial. Well, today she pointed the finger at her son seated in the gallery in front of me, Scott, calling him the real killer. The Farris family shaking their heads, throwing up their arms at points in time, and the prosecutors objecting to this. Take a listen.
Not only did I not do this, I know who did. I know Scott killed his father. He took my husband, the father of Chris, Emily, and Amanda. Scott, this is unforgivable. Scott has spent an entire life of loving and protecting you, but this I refuse to cover for you. My mother, your mom, begged me to take the blame for this. She said after she talked to you, after Gary died, that she knew you had done it. Her exact words were, "You are his mother. You have to take blame for this."
All right, so the Ferris family caught on camera right here. Afterwards, they were whisked out a side door by the victim advocates of the courthouse here in Canton, Georgia. Family members were reaching for Scott, comforting him. He was shaking in the gallery there in front of me as once again, during this long process, his mother called him the real killer, Julia.
That is just captivating to see it all unfold, Matt. I'm watching the brothers watch out. They're pretty tall guys, something that was brought out during the testimony in this trial. And also was a little surprised there at the clip that you showed where Melody is saying, your mom, she's meaning, I guess, Scott's grandmother, but she's saying, my mom and your mom said this to me about you. But take us back to the beginning. How did this sentencing start out? There was a lot more than just that moment.
Right, so it started out as any other typical sentencing would. So we come in and we're expecting a few statements to be read. Melody Farris, who appeared during her trial, she was out on bail, $250,000. She wore pearls each and every day. Today she wore different jewelry. She was wearing shackles and handcuffs and in an orange jumpsuit. And she made her way to the defense table. No one knew that she was actually going to address the court today. we saw the Farris children in the gallery. At one point in time, we expected them to deliver victim impact statements, but they were breaking down in tears, ultimately decided not to. Chris and Scott Farris, of the 4 children who were present, not to speak today. Instead, a statement on the family's behalf was read by prosecutors, delivered from Emily, who was not here. Listen to part of that.
Okay, so just to kind of give you some direction. Things that are appropriate, you helping take care of your family, raise your family, those kind of things, what you've done throughout your life, and asking the court to exert some sort of mercy on you. Things of that nature are appropriate.
All right, the family was very agitated and in tears at point in time when also someone spoke on behalf of Melody Ferris. It was a family friend. They were questioning why this person was here. They were shaking their head at the statements that he was making. That was David Thomas. He testified during the trial. And then the whole mood in the courtroom really took a different turn. Completely quiet, everyone in shock when we learned that Melody Ferris was going to deliver this statement. Let's listen to more of that.
I spent 18 plus months in the Cherokee County Jail over something that I did not do. But the last thing, I thought that was the last thing I could do to Gary, for him, to get justice for him. I can remember thinking, it's okay that I sit here. I just want answers. That's all I want. And I still haven't gotten them. And I don't think that I ever will.
The judge sentencing her to life behind bars plus 5 years. Now, here in the state of Georgia, what that means is she's eligible for consideration of parole after 30 years behind bars. Julia.
MattJohnson, thank you so much for that live report. We'll let you go for now. Let's bring back in our analyst who's standing by, civil rights and trial attorney Dante Pointer. It was a shock, Dante. I remember just understanding from our sources that are there inside the courtroom, Matt letting us know, and our producers there, saying that she was going to speak. And now it makes me wonder, should she have testified? She said during her statement today that she would have wanted to speak. She just listened to the advice of counsel throughout, because this has been since 2018, but that she listened to attorneys and not speaking up. And today, this could have been something that could have helped her. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a very difficult decision, whether or not for most defendants to accept that they're not going to take the stand in their own defense, and instead will rely upon their attorneys to cross-examine and put on evidence. In this situation here, I must say that as I watched the trial, and her gesture and her demeanor through the trial, it wasn't something that engendered a lot of sympathy or compassion from me. However, in listening to her read her statement during sentencing, it definitely raised an eyebrow for me. Why? Because I'm a parent, and anytime, a parent, or if you deal with parents, your own parents, if you will, we're very reluctant and to throw our kids under the bus. And most of the time, we're our fiercest advocates, and particularly a mother in defense of their son. And here what you have in stunning fashion is her saying, hey, not only did I know that you did it, but your own mother and your grandmother know you did it. And I sat here stoically thinking that I was defending my dead husband as well as yourself from these charges. And ultimately, I'd walk out of here and the world would know the facts. And instead, now I'm being sentenced to essentially a death sentence. I will see my last days in prison, in jail, labeled a murderer of my husband, when we all know the truth, that you did it. In the same form, it was a very surprising thing to see, where you saw the family rally around Scott on the way out, comforting him, and you see his reaction. I don't know if those are real tears, crocodile tears, or the family wanting to just have closure and believing that Scott didn't do it and don't want to believe he did it. I have a feeling this will be back on appeal because I would think she's pretty well heeled and financed for her defense, which is what she had going into this case. So we have to wait to see the next chapter of the story.
This is one of those cases where a jury was critical. It seemed that no one really definitively knew, and it took a jury to make the decision on these are the facts. What do you believe is guilt or not guilty in this case? You mentioned that parental plea. I want to go back to what she said, talking about being a parent and really pleading with Judge Cannon. Let's listen.
Judge Cannon, I beg of you for help. As one parent to another, help me get justice for Gary and my family. A mother, or at least not this mother, does not blame her child unless she knows he did it. Not thinks, knows. And I would never sit here and let the attorneys lay blame to him if I didn't know.
Now, Dante, one thing that she didn't take ownership of during that statement that was lengthy, and it was against what the judge told her she should do, what the prosecution wanted to allow. She said this needs to get out, but she didn't mention Rusty. And I think he was a big part of the reason that jurors felt comfortable convicting her. What do you think about her boyfriend, who took the stand? He recanted, but he initially told detectives that she said he's on the burn pile, meaning her husband, and this was before anyone had discovered his body.
Well, now with the way in which we have more information and context, at least from her, she may have said, yeah, he was on the burn pile, but I didn't put him there. My son did, or omitted the fact that her son was the one that put him there. But she knew that what her son had done. And so, I can only imagine, the different emotions that are raging on both sides. This family who is looking for justice for the slain father, for the slain patriarch, but also a mother who's sitting there saying, it wasn't me, it was him. And you forced me to have to now point the finger in your direction. This is a tough one.
It's a very tough one. Very tough one, especially for that family, because that has to be a conflicted position to be in. Dante, thank you so much for your analysis.